Okay, folks, this is the kind of one of the harder assignments in the first semester. Okay, it's pretty annoying. You're solving equations, so the first thing you do is say, okay, there's exponents, so what's the highest one? It's 4. So we're finding more than 2 answers. We're going to follow these same guidelines here, okay? I have x to the 4th and I have x to the 2nd, so those x's are not like terms that can be added, so I need to use my factoring process. And it's this process here. 2 terms GCF DOPS, 3 terms GCF T. T doesn't work, we have that. 4 terms is the grouping in DOPS. And all these are going to need an extra DOPS box over here to the side because we are finding more than 2 answers. Okay. So that's a guideline set up, and we'll need this sheet because it will involve some square rooting. Okay. All right, 3x to the 4th power minus 75x second. Looks to me like there are 2 terms. So we need to make our GCF box. Get your GCF calculator ready. And DOPS. Now, since you're finding more than 2 answers, there's the possibility of another DOPS over here. Now, every factor I do, I'm going to circle it and put it over here. And then I'm going to use scratch paper to solve it. Alright, so GCF. Do you have a negative in front? Nope. Do you have x on both? Yep, you have x 4th and x 2nd. So we need to take x to the 2nd. Then on the GCF calculator, you go 3 and 75, and that's 3. So 3x to the 2nd. Now divide by 3x to the 2nd. And 3 divided by 3 is 1. X 4th, x 2nd would be x 2nd. Negative 75 divided by 3 is negative 25. So we need to put minus 25, and those x's cancel. Now, you need to circle the 3x squared and put it over here in the parentheses, because that's done. I don't want to look at that no more. DOPS, well, you have a minus, and 25 is up on the board. That's 5 times 5. 1 is on the board. That's 1 times 1. And x to the 2nd is on the board. That's x times x. So this needs to be filled out. We need to put 1x, 5, and 5. Then we circle the binomial with a plus and go put that over here. Okay, the binomial with a minus, we check for perfect squares, but it's not because 5 you can't write. So that can be circled as well, and we can't go into that box. And that's 1x minus 5. So we have 3 factors, F1, F2, F3. And then we're going to get these answers using scratch paper. Okay, so F1, 3x to the 2nd, I set that equal to 0, and I get the x by itself. We don't need to add or subtract. We do need to divide by 3 first. And then normally what we do to cancel out a second power is to square root, but that doesn't do me any good if we have 0 on the other side. So what I do is it's x to the 2nd, so that means 2 of these answers are 0, because it's to the 2nd. Okay, 1x plus 5 equals 0. Minus 5, I get negative 5. I really do not need the 1 there, and I don't have a second power, so that's my answer, just 1, negative 5. And then the F3 expression is 1x minus 5. You can add 5 to both sides, and I get 5. I can get rid of the 1. There's no second power, so 5 can be my answer. Okay, and I know I'm done when they're all filled out. Okay, my next problem, there are 4 answers because we have x to the 4th. So I have x to the 4th and x to the 2nd. Now, that means I have to factor. You can't get your x's together. And this time there are 3 terms, so GCF and T. Alright, now I'm looking for more than 2 answers, so there's a possibility that I might have a DOPS over here. I want to be organized in how you do this. Okay. So GCF, do you have a negative in front? Nope. Do you have X on everything? Nope. 2, 13, and 45 is a GCF of 1, so there is no GCF, so I don't have a factor here. A, B, C. So I take A times C. That's 2 times negative 45. That's going to be negative 90. Looking for a difference of 13. 1 and 90, no way. 2 and 45, nope. 3 and 30, nope, that's 27. 4 is a decimal. 5 and 18, yes, 18 minus 5 is 13. By the way, all T-charts will work on this assignment. You don't use a quadratic formula. So my 13's minus, okay, so I know that 18's minus, okay, and it's a difference, so they have to be the opposite signs. Now the A term is 2x to the 4th. Well, it's not 1x, so I'm going to need 4 parentheses. And I place that 2. And then I need to split the x to the 4th in half. So it's x to the 2nd and x to the 2nd, not x and x. And then plus 5 minus 18. You don't break the 2 down, you just put it, but you do break the x factor down. Okay, 2 and 5, the GCF is 1, so that'll just say 2x to the 2nd plus 5. 2 and 18 have a GCF of 2, so divide by 2, and I have x to the power of 2 minus 9. Circle the factor that's plus, and just put it over here. You can't do anything else with that. Okay, minus. 9's a perfect square because it's 3 times 3. X to the 2nd power is a perfect square because it's x times x. Okay, so I come over here, I go x, 3, 3. So this plus gets circled and brought down as a final factor. This has minus, but 3 is not a perfect square, so that gets circled, and that's a final factor. Okay, so I have F1, F2, F3. 3 factors, but remember I got to get 4 answers. Well, there are going to be 2 that come from this, okay, with the 2nd power. So 2x to the 2nd power plus 5 equals 0. So I subtract 5 from both sides, and that gives me negative 5. You can divide then by 2. You need to divide by 2, and that is a decimal, but that's fine. I want you doing decimals here. And the 2nd power I get rid of with the square root, and these undo each other. Now, as you can see, we have a and remember, this is could be the positive or the negative. That's why it's 2 answers with that 2nd power. You have a negative under that, so you need to make the I outside, make it positive, and bring out the letter I. So we're going to put I right here. And we have a decimal. When you have a decimal, do not use the list of square roots. Square root it on your calculator. I get 1.58. So I 1.58 or 1.58I. And then the other answer is negative. Because again, positive, negative. Okay, so we've got that one done. Now on to F2. So x plus 3 equals 0. Minus 3 minus 3. I get negative 3. I do not need to square root or divide. Negative 3 is my next answer. X minus 3 equals 0, plus 3, I get 3. I do not need to square root. I do not need to divide. Okay. So again, with that x to the second power, move that, then divide by the 2, then square root. If you get a negative, you need to do an I. And since I had a decimal, I did the square root on my calculator, not this sheet. That's the only time you can just do it on the calculator. Okay, my next problem. There are 5 answers. So I obviously have x to the 5th, but I also have x. So again, that tells me I need to factor. And we're back to 2 terms. So GCF DOPS. Now, since we are finding more than 2 answers, there's a very real possibility that we might have a DOPS over here at the end. Okay. Okay. GCF. Do you have a negative in front? No. Do you have x on everything? Sure. 2 and 162, the GCF is 2. So I factor out 2x, circle it, and bring it down here. Now go divide by 2x. So that gives me 1 with x to the 4th minus 81. Okay, DOPS, you have minus. Now 81's a perfect square, that's 9 times 9. 1's a perfect square, that's 1 times 1. And the x is to an even power, so I can split that into x second, x second. So I have 1x to the second, 1x to the second, and 9 and 9. Now again, the factor that is plus, you circle and bring it over here. The factor that is minus, you need to see if that's perfect squares. So 9 is 3 times 3. And 1 is 1 times 1. X to the second is x times x. Okay. So that is a dot. So I go 1x, 1x, 3 and 3. That's a plus. We can go ahead and write that down here. And even though that's a minus, 3 is not a perfect square. So I can circle that and bring that down. Alrighty then. So we got F1, F2, F3, and F4. So F1, 2x can equal 0. There's no adding or subtracting. We do need to divide by 2. And that is 0. And I do not need to square root because it's second power. So that's your first answer. I will get 2 answers from this because it's to the second power. So 1x to the second plus 9 equals 0. Undo the plus 9 by minusing 9. The coefficient is 1, so we do not need to divide, but we have a second power, so we need to square root. So x equals positive, negative. You have a negative under the square root, so you need to make an I. And is 9 on the list? Yes, it is. It has an equal right there of 3, so you put 3i, or I3, doesn't matter. So that's 2 answers, 3i and negative 3i. Okay, then cross that out. 1x plus 3, it would just be one answer because it's just a regular x. When you have these factors written, you should know how many answers come from each factor. So negative 3. Don't need to square root, don't need to divide. Only one answer will come out of that. Plus 3, I get 3. I don't need to divide by 1, and there's no second power, so 3. Filled out. Okay, next problem. 25x to the third minus 100x to the second minus 1x plus 4. There are 3 answers. and I have x to the third, I have x to the second, and I have x. So obviously we need to factor. And the 0 is there. Now how many terms do I have? I have 4. So with 4 terms, we do the grouping and then the dots. So grouping, dots, get the parentheses set up for the grouping. And is there more than two answers? Sure. So we are going to need to make a second dots box, another dots box. Maybe we'll use it, maybe we won't. Okay, so you put 25x to the third minus 100x to the second, and then negative 1x plus 4. Then you discover the GCF. Negative in front? No. Do you have x on both? Yep, and it's to the second as your smallest. And then 25 and 100 have a GCF of 25. So 25, 25. Do you have a negative in front? Sure. Do you have x on everything? No. The GCF of 1 and 4 is 1, but when doing the grouping, you need to do the 1. So I factor out 25x to the second, and I factor out negative 1. So that's going to be 1. X third, x second would mean you'd have an x factor. Negative 100 divided by 25 is negative 4, so minus 4, and these can cancel. Negative 1 divided by negative 1 is 1 with the x factor. And positive 4 divided by negative 1 is negative 4. So minus 4. Don't be doing the plus negative. So in each of these parentheses, I have 1x minus 4. So I need to pull out 1x minus 4 here. Cross those off. And I have 25x to the second. Don't write plus negative 1. Write minus 1. Now dots. Well, we have a minus here, and 4 is 2 times 2, and 1 is 1 times 1, but it's just x. There's no power on the x, so this needs to be circled and brought over here. So I almost was able to get a dots, but not quite. Okay, let's check this one. You have the minus. 1 is 1 times 1. 25 is 5 times 5, and the x to the second is xx. So 5x, 5x. Okay. So 5x, 5x, 1, 1. Circle the plus, bring it over here. This has a minus, and 1's a perfect square, but 5 is not. So if I can't get a dots, I'm going to circle that, cross this out, and bring it over here. So I have F1, F2, F3. One answer comes from here, one answer from here, one answer from here. There are no second powers, so that's good. So my F1, 1x minus 4, that could equal 0. So add your 4, and I get 4. You can eliminate the 1. You will not need to divide. You will not need to square root, so that's 4. The next f, 5x plus 1 equals 0. So 5x equals negative 1. I need to divide by 5. And you can leave that negative 1/5, or you can divide it, and it's negative 0.2. Either answer is okay. So negative 1/5, and then 5x minus 1. Plus 1 plus 1. 5x equals 1. Divide by 5. X equals, you can either divide 1 by 5 or just leave it 1/5. Okay. Don't need to square root it. Okay, my next page. There are 5 answers here. And again, I have x to the fifth, x to the third, and x, all different terms of x. So 3 terms. There's 1, 2, 3. So I would do the GCF, the t, and then since I'm looking for more than one answer, there's a good chance there's going to be a DOPS over here. More than 2 answers, excuse me. With 2 answers, you don't have to worry about this, but with more than 2, you do. GCF, you got a negative in front? Nope. You got X on everything? Yeah. 2, 2, and 20, the GCF is 2, so we need to factor out 2X, circle it, bring it over here. Now divide by 2X. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. That would give us x to the fourth. Plus 2 divided by 2 is 1. X third, x is x to the second. Minus, I screwed something up. I don't want this 20 to be 20. I want it to be 40. Okay? It's 40 divided by 2, and that's 20. GCF still is 2, though, and those cancel. Okay, ABC. And again, A times C. So A is 1 times negative 20. That's negative 20, so difference of 1. 1 and 20, nope. 2 and 10, nope. 3 is a decimal, 4 and 5, yes. Okay. So my B up there is a plus, so my larger value is a plus, and difference would mean they're the opposite. Now what's going on with the A? The A is 1x to the fourth. So we have our 1, so I just need 2 parentheses. But that x needs to be made x to the second, x to the second, and then minus 4 and plus 5. Okay? Now the plus is circled and brought over here. If you have a plus, circle it right away. Bring that factor over. Here you have a minus, so check before you circle it. We got to see if it's difference of perfect squares. If it is, I don't circle it. I bring it over here. So that's 2 times 2. That's x times x. So that is. So I don't want to circle that. I want to put xx, 2, 2. Okay, the plus gets circled. Bring it here. And this is a minus, but 2 is not a perfect square. So I circle that. That's x minus 2, because 2 is not anything times itself. So I have an F1, an F2, an F3, and an F4. All right, scratch paper. Let's do the F1 first. 1 answer comes from here, because it's to the first power. 2 answers come from here. 1 answer from here, 1 answer from here. You know 2 come from here because it's to the second power. So 2x equals 0. Don't need to add or subtract. I do need to divide by the 2. And x is 0. Only 1 answer. F2, remember 2 answers come from here. So x to the second power plus 5 equals 0. You can put a 1 in front. Minus the 5. 1x second equals negative 5. We can eliminate the 1. And to undo the second power, we need to square root negative 5. So x could be positive or negative. We ended up with a negative, so I need to bring an I outside. Okay. Now, is 5 on this list? Nope. So I make 2 square roots. Now 5 falls between these two. Is 5 divisible by 4? No. So what we do is we're just going to leave the 5 in its square root. And we need to put the I there, though, somewhere. So I have I square root 5, and then the same thing with a negative in front. Okay? They're just opposites. With these second powers, they'll just be a positive and a negative. X plus 2. 1 answer comes from there. So minus 2, and I get negative 2. I don't need to divide or square root. And then x minus 2. X is 2. Okay, next problem. There are 5 answers. Okay, and what do I have? Well, no, I should have done that here, sorry. I have x to the 5th, x to the 3rd, and x. So that's 3 different types of x. So again, factoring with 3 terms. So GCF, the t, and since there's more than, and since I am looking for more than 2 answers, probably need an additional DOPS box. I don't care how many terms there are. If there's more than 2, if you're factoring and you got to find more than 2 answers, you're going to want a DOPS box at the end. So GCF, do you have a negative? No. Do you have X on everything? Yes. 228.90. Punch those into the GCF app, and that's 2. So we factor out 2x. Circle it and put it in parentheses down here because that's a factor. Now divide everything by 2x. And I get 1x to the 4th minus 14x to the 2nd plus 45. Cancel. ABC. And I take the A times the C. Okay, 1 times 45, that would be 45 positive. So I'm looking for a sum of 14. 1 and 45, no. 2's a decimal. 3 and 15, nope. 4's a decimal. 5 and 9, yup. Okay. And that 14 is minus. These have to come to minus 14, so we need bigger minus. And sum would mean they're both minus. Okay, hold your head on straight. What's up with the A? 1x to the 4th. So A is still 1. Okay, so I just need 2 parentheses. I don't need to put a number, but that x to the 4th has to be broken in half. Okay, you always need to break the x in half. Minus 5, minus 9. Okay, so the first factor does not contain a plus. It has a minus, but 5 I don't believe can be broken down as a perfect square, so we will circle that and bring that over here. This has a minus. 9 is 3 times 3. X squared is x times x, so don't circle that because you need to bring that over here. The plus can be circled. Bring it down here. The minus needs to be examined. 3 is not a DOP, so. Okay, so I have F1, F2, F3, and F4. How many answers come from here? Is there a power on the X? Nope, so just one answer. How many from here? Is there a power on the X? Yup, 2, so there'll be 2 answers from here. Is there a power on the X? Nope, 1. Power on the X, 1. So we got 1, 2, 1, 1. That'll make 5. So I know that's right. Okay, so F1, 2x could equal 0. We do not need to divide. We just, we do not really need to add or subtract. We do need to divide by 2, and that's 0. One answer. There will be 2 answers coming from this factor. X to the 2nd minus 5. I need to undo the minus 5 by adding it. So 1x squared equals 5. You don't need to divide by 1. Square root. So x equals positive negative. Question for you. Do you need to do the I? No, because it's not negative. The next thing is 5 on your list of perfect squares. Nope. It's between here. Is 5 divisible by 4? Will you get a whole number? No, you won't. So we're just going to keep this 5 in the square root. And I don't need the I because it wasn't negative. So I put square root of 5 and square root of 5 negative. Okay, my next factor is x plus 3. Subtract 3. We get negative 3. And my x minus 3. Add 3, and you get 3. All right, next problem. There are 3 answers, 3 solutions to the equation. And I have x to the third, x to the second, and x. So again, I'm just doing this here because that tells me, okay, I have all these x's and they can't be combined as like terms. So that means you have to factor. It's the only way. Okay, there are 4 terms now. So set up your grouping. Again, 2 terms, 3 terms, 4 terms, and all need an extra DOPS box over here because you're looking for more than 2 answers. So grouping, make your parentheses. Make a DOPS box. Make another DOPS box in here just in case. Again, if it's a DOPS, you don't circle it. You need to put it over here. Okay, so I've got 1x to the third plus 6x to the second, the first 2, and then negative 4x minus 24. Do you have a negative in front? No. Do you have x on both these? Yes, to the second. 1 and 6, the GCF's 1, so I don't need to put 1. Do you have a negative in front here? Yep. Do you have x on both? Nope. 4 and 24, the GCF is 4. So I factor out x to the second and negative 4. So I get 1, x third, x second is x, plus 6, and these cancel. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1 with x. Now that's negative 24 divided by negative 4, that's positive 6, so plus 6. Okay, the parentheses are identical, so I bring it out 1x plus 6. Put it in parentheses. And then I have x a second. Don't put plus negative, put minus 4. Okay, now look at these 2. Circle that because it has a plus. That is done. That will be a final factor. This will not be a final factor because we have the minus, and 4 is 2 times 2, and x a second is x times x. So I have x, 2, 2. Circle that. That is a plus, means it's a final factor. That is a minus, but 2 can't be broken down as a perfect square. So that's a final factor, and we will not need to do anything there. Okay, so F1, F2, F3. Is there a power on that x? Nope, that's one answer. Is there a power on that x? Nope, that's nope. Okay. So 1x plus 6 can equal 0. And I get negative 6. Cross out the 1. Don't need to square root. It's negative 6. X plus 2. Minus 2, minus 2, I get negative 2. And x minus 2. Plus 2, plus 2, you get 2. Okay, there you go. Okay, last problem, finally. There are 4 answers. And what do we have? X to the fourth, x to the third, x to the second. So again, there's 1, 2, 3, 3 terms. You got to look carefully. So that's the GCF and the T. And since we were looking for more than 2 answers, we need an additional DOPS box just in case. GCF, do you have a negative in front? Nope. Do you have X on everything? Nope. Okay, 18, 57, and 10. The GCF, oh, you do have X on everything. I'm sorry. X fourth, X third, X second. So X second. And the GCF out of that's 1. Okay, but it's 1x a second, so out he goes. Circle him. He's a final factor. Divided by 1x second, divided by 1x second, divided by 1x second. So that'll stay 18, but the x to the fourth goes down to x to the second plus 57. The x third, x second goes down to x minus 10. Okay, ABC, this is going to be a crappy T-chart, okay? A times C, 18 times negative 10 is negative 180. Now, I know what I've said in the past, they're like, oh, I thought if it's over 100, you just go to the formula. Not on this assignment, just don't. I won't put problems on the test over hundreds at work, okay? Unless it's a story problem where you just use the quadratic formula. Difference of 57. 1 and 180, nope. 2 and 90, nope. 3 and 60, bingo. So 57's plus, they have to make plus 57. 60 would have to be plus, it's difference, so that'd be minus. Now, A, well, A is 18x squared. First off, we don't have a 1 in front, so that means I need 4 parentheses with those 18 leading the way. And the x is to the second, so we need to break him up into x and x. Minus 3 plus 60. Okay, 18 and 3, the GCF's 3, so we're going to divide by 3. That's 6x minus 1. Cross that out, too. 18 and 60, the GCF is 6. That's 3x plus 10. Cross those out. We don't want to look at those anymore after we do the reduce down. The plus gets circled and brought over here. Minus, well, we'll look. 1's 1 times 1, but I don't think 6 is a perfect square, so that gets circled. That's a final factor. We don't need to mess around there. So 6x minus 1. So 2 answers come from this, 1 answer from this, and 1 answer from this. 2 because you have a second. So let's look at F1, factor number 1. 1x to the second. Well, you're not going to have to add or subtract. Get rid of the 1. And I would normally square root, but when I have 0, that means 2 of the answers are 0. 3x plus 10. We need to minus 10. Divide by 3. And we don't need to square root, but negative 10 divided by 3 is not a very nice thing. You can write negative 3.3 repeating, or you can just do what I'm going to do and write negative 10 over 3, since that divisibility is not even. Okay, and then 6x minus 1. So plus 1, 6x equals 1, divide by 6. 1 divided by 6 ain't 6. Okay, watch. Decimal, you can write the decimal, or you can just leave it 1 over 6.